say if we'll only avoid any confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us.
I am confused. Being philosophically consistent and being a very honest person, I'm sure you can tell me where God came from.
That you're thinking of the wrong, obviously it displays that you're thinking of the wrong God. Because the God of the Bible is not affected by time, space, or matter. If he's affected by time, space, or matter, he's not God.
This is the Philosophically Poetic Show. Right here on FM.
Welcome. You are tuned into Philosophically Poetic right here on Active FM. This is your girl Noelzii Lee, and yet another week of speaking all things atheism versus theism. Now today is gonna be super juicy because I'm diving into a big problem in the atheistic community. Many of the atheists don't like to admit to this. They don't like to say, yes, this is true about atheism. But the fact is that atheism has a suicide problem. And I know in earlier shows we've spoken about this. I mean, I've spoken to you about the atheists who committed heinous crimes. And one of the common threads in those crimes was the fact that after killing the people that they killed, they ended up killing themselves. Now, I'm not saying 100% of them did, because we know people that didn't kill themselves at the end of committing the crimes that they committed. But it is a big thread in the atheistic community, this suicide thing, this wanting to kill themselves. And many of the suicides that are reported are atheists that are committing suicide. Now, in this show, we are going to dive into why atheists commit suicide. What is the reasoning behind why they commit suicide? Now, something very interesting. I got a quote from an atheist, and this is what he says. Depression is a serious problem within the greater atheist community, and far too often that depression has led to suicide. This is something many fellow atheists often don't like to admit to, but it's true. I know a lot of atheists, myself included, would like to believe that atheists are happier people than religious believers, and in many ways we are. But we also have to accept the reality that in some very important ways we are not. Now, let me put this plainly. In Christianity, you receive joy that comes from the Lord. And there are three different types of categories when it comes to happiness, pleasure, and joy. And those are the three different categories. And now, pleasure is satisfaction of your flesh. So pleasure is satisfaction of your body. So eating, that type of stuff, that's pleasure. Happiness is satisfaction of your soul. So happiness comes and goes. It depends on your emotions. It depends on your will, whether you get what you want or not. And it depends on your thinking. So if you're thinking that day's a mess, you're not happy. If you don't get what you want, you're not happy. If your emotions, you're just feeling that day, you're not happy. Now, joy is satisfaction of the spirit, and that you can only get from God. Which God? The Christian God, of course. And joy comes as a satisfaction of the spirit. You have joy no matter what circumstance you are facing. You could be standing at a grave of a loved one, and you will have the joy of the Lord within you. Now, it doesn't mean you're jumping around at the grave and you're all excited because this person died and stuff like that. That's not what I mean by joy. Joy is satisfaction of the spirit, meaning it's not happiness. You only know it when you experience it, and that is why it's very important that people start to, Christianity is not something that can be explained. I could explain to you everything I go through and you'd be like, yeah, that's for you. It's something that you experience. It's within experiencing and encountering God for yourself that you start to actually see what we feel and all of that stuff. So this joy that is placed within you is indescribable, if I could put it in that way, but it gives you the highest level of satisfaction, if I could put it that way. And now, when we look at atheists, they don't have this joy because they're not filled with the Spirit of the Lord. And this is why there's been a lot of suicides that have happened in the atheistic community. Now, we are going to dig deeper into all of that in this show. We are going to unpack 10 facts about atheists. It is going to be, listen, it is going to be a show that you don't want to miss. But before we get into all of this madness, we are going to go and dance a little, relax our minds a little, relax our bodies a little. We are going to go into some hot music. Christ music is the hottest music on the planet. This one is entitled Oh No, and it is by Reactive. And when you hear it, you won't say, oh no, you'll be like, oh yes, because the song is that incredible. The song is truly amazing. You'll be dancing, you'll be rapping. Listen, I got you. Let's get into Oh No by Reactive.
Hey, this is Sash from Reactive, and radio has never been better. So stay tuned.
But I'm pacing through. Your arms are all I'm racing to. I found my place in you. Feed me with the bread of life. Same word, but it's tasting you. I'm always embracing you. Hope my life stays in you. You got one for me. No need to be chasing two. In your arms you wrap me. Trapped but now I'm set free. Thank you, Lord. You restore my sanity. So I keep chasing you. Difficult, but I'm pacing through.
Trust him, he'll never let you down. Run into his arms, and even though you sin, he shed his blood for you.
Oh no, you did it. You can't just run from him. Loved you from the beginning. You're still the one for him. And even though you sinned, he shed his blood for you. Oh no, you did it. Oh no.
Once upon a time I entered the perfect love story. Then from a miracle working Father, loyal always, loves more than words can say. His love never quits. He rescued from the trampoline pool. He is madly in love with me. Surrender and trust him. He'll never let you down. Run into his arms, and even though you sin, he shed his blood for you.
Oh no, you did it. You can't just run from him. Loved you from the beginning. You're still the one for him. And even though you sinned, he shed his blood for you. Oh no, you did it. Oh no.
He shed his blood for you.
Expose him! Expose him!
Back home.
Active FM. Active FM.
How awesome was that track? I mean, I was dancing. I even forgot that I'm supposed to come back and carry on recording. That song was super, super awesome. It is Oh No by Reactive. Love it, love it, love it. If you're looking for it, simply find it on iTunes, Spotify, Deezer. Listen, wherever you get music, you can get Oh No by Reactive. Truly, truly an amazing album in general, not just the song, I mean the tracks. And they have 2 albums so far. So if you're looking for good music, good Christian heart music, get to that and make sure that you go and download those songs. But getting into the heat of the topic, we are speaking 10 facts about atheism. And now, measuring atheism is complicated. Some people who describe themselves as atheists also say they believe in some kind of higher power or spiritual force. At the same time, some of those who identify with a religion, for example, let's say they say they're Jewish or stuff, say they don't believe in God. So like measuring atheism is really something that is not easy to do, if I could put it that way. Now, I understand that many people that are atheists are like, but I believe in some sort of higher power, just not God. And I believe that many people that claim to be Christian, that claim to be whatever, they say that they are that, but they don't believe in God. And we spoke about this a little bit earlier in the other show where we were speaking about this atheist pastor. And obviously it is, for me, like impossible to be an atheist pastor, but we do get those people that identify that way. And now, one thing is for sure, along with the rise of religiously affiliated Americans, many of whom believe in God, there has been a corresponding increase in the number of atheists. And here are some key facts about atheists in the United States and around the world. So, this was obviously conducted in the US where they did this. And so many of the facts will be US affiliated, but it's also about atheists and people that don't believe all around the world. And the first fact goes as follows. A share of Americans who identify as atheists has not increased modestly, but has increased significantly in the past decade. So they did some research, and it was conducted in 2018 and 2019. And it shows that 4% of the American adults say that they are atheists when asked about their religion or identity, up to 2% in 2009, and additional 5% of Americans call themselves agnostics, and up to 3% a decade ago. So it's literally increasing all the time. Many people are like, okay, now I'm atheist. Okay, now I'm not atheist anymore. Okay, now I'm back to being atheist again. So it seems to be drastically increasing. We are going to do a show on agnostics versus atheists, because it's like a very thin line, but there is a line. They identify differently. So I am going to do a show on atheists versus agnostics. The second one is the literal definition of atheist is a person who does not believe in the existence of a god or any gods, according to Merriam-Webster. And the vast majority of the US atheists fit the description. 81% say they do not believe in a god or a higher power or in any spiritual force of any kind. Overall, 10% of the American adults share this view. At the same time, roughly 1 in 5 self-described atheists, which is 18%, say that they do believe in some kind of higher power. None of the atheists were surveyed, however, said that they believe in the God that the Bible describes. So there are atheists that are like hardcore. They're like, listen, there is no such thing. I don't believe in God. I'll never believe in God because God doesn't exist. And then there are those atheists that say that they do believe, however, but they don't believe in the God of the Bible. And now this for me is like very sad, because now when you're looking at it, they don't know the truth. And when we look at atheists, they base themselves on knowing the real truth. They know what the Bible says. They know all of that stuff, but they don't know the truth. Number 3 is that atheists make up a larger share of the population of many European countries than they do in the US. In Western Europe, the research that was conducted in 15 countries in 2017, nearly 1 in 5 Belgians, which is 19%, identify as atheists, as do 16% in Denmark, 15% in France, 14% in the Netherlands and Sweden. Now, this for me is the biggest reason why we need to get the gospel out to people. 19% of people in the Netherlands don't believe. Can you imagine how many people that is that don't know about God? They don't know the truth. They don't know the joy, the love of the Father. And that is why it's very important that we are getting to people and reaching people, because people have basically beliefs in the wrong thing. And if we don't tell them about God, then how do they know? It says, but then European countries with perhaps the biggest share of atheists is Czech Republic, where a quarter of the adults identify that way. Neighboring Slovakia, 15% identify as atheists, although the rest of the Central and Eastern Europeans, atheists have a smaller percentage despite the historical influence of the officially atheist Soviet Union. Like Americans, Europeans in many countries are more likely to say they do not believe in God than they identify as atheists, including 2/3 of Czechs and at least half of Sweden's 60% and Belgians 54% and Dutch adults, which is 53%, who say they don't believe in God. In other religions surveyed by the center, including Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa, atheists are generally much in those countries. And now, if you look at it this way, many people don't have a good view of God. They've got this atheistic view of God where they think, this God cannot exist. And for us to sit back with the knowledge of God and do nothing about that is the biggest injustice to humanity. But now in the US, atheists are mostly men and are relatively young. According to the 2014 Religious Landscape Study, about 7 in 10 US atheists are men, which is 68%, and the median age is 34, compared with 46 for all US adults. Atheists are also likely to be white, 78% versus 66% of the general public, and highly educated. About 4 in 10 atheists, 43%, have a college degree compared to the 27% of the general public. And they are self-identified atheists. They also tend to be aligned with the Democratic Party and with political liberalism. So obviously atheists believe in this whole thing of liberalism. Everyone should be free to do whatever they want to. If you look at the studies, for me it comes as no shock that many of them have college degrees, because in college everything you learn is anti-God. I mean, from politics to philosophy to economics, the teachers fill you with their doctrines, they fill you with their ideas, and you become so filled with this higher knowledge that you think you know better and you stop believing in God. And that's the reality of the situation. I mean, I remember sitting in one of my politics classes and we're supposed to be learning politics, right? And then this politics teacher starts telling us, no, don't believe in the Bible. Okay, if you read it, just take the moral values you want out of it, but you don't have to take everything. And like, now he's giving us a whole lecture on the Bible and why we mustn't believe in the Bible. And I'm like, my guy, but we were just learning politics. What's going on though? But that's basically what happens in varsities, where the lecturers, they fill you with whatever they want you to know. The vast majority of the US atheists say that religion is not too far or not important in their lives, and that they seldom or never pray. At the same time, many do see a contradiction between atheism and pondering their place in the world. About a third of American atheists say that the meaning and the purpose of life, at least weekly, they think about what's the meaning and the purpose of life, basically, and that they often fall into a deep sense of spiritual peace and well-being. In fact, religious landscape studies show that atheists are more likely than US Christians to say they feel a sense of wonder about the universe. And obviously, we don't feel a sense of wonder about the universe because we know what happened. We know that the universe does not control us, does not define our destiny. We know that God created. We know what's going on. So obviously, they would wonder about stuff to do with the universe. But if you see this, they say they seldom pray, but everyone, no matter if you're atheist or Christian or whatever, I've seen people when they're in the most desperate situations pray. And it's like, okay, and then if God saves you out of that, now all of a sudden you're atheist again. You don't believe that it was the miracle of God, but many atheists do pray. And we are going to dig deeper into all of this because it is juicy and spicy. But right now, we are going to go into Destination by Active Worship. Let's go!
No longer broken, I walk in your spoken word. Evil overthrown, I'm walking in victory. Our destination is heaven. Bring the whole world with you now. We are celebrating. Was lost, but now we're found. Jesus made a way so we could be with Him. This is what we're living for. Heaven is counting This life is temporary. Been living for so much more. Heaven is everlasting. The place that I call home. Our destination is heaven. Bring the whole world with you now. We are celebrating. Was lost, but now we're found. Jesus made a way so we could be with Him. This is what we're living for. Heaven is counting Jesus, the one and the only King. Destined for heaven, I'm going in. Heaven is real, it's not a thing. Caring, love, limitless. Faith is the basis, I'm gonna win. This race is my gain, yes, I'm on a team. Working in purpose, I'm jumping in. Your Holy Spirit is guiding me. Purpose is driven to infinity. Heaven is our destination, Jesus is the only one. Heaven is our destination, Jesus is the only one. Ah.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, are you
You can stream Reactive's very own The Movement album on Spotify and Apple iTunes. Reactive is a movement.
One of my favorite songs from Active Worship's new album, and the new album is entitled Inception. If you're looking for that, make sure you go on Spotify, Deezer, iTunes, Apple Music, Google, wherever you get your songs. Just go get the song. Make sure that you're paying for the song. Don't free download nothing here. Support the music. And I love it. I love the rap. I'm always like, hey. And in the beginning, when I didn't know the rap, it was kind of like embarrassing for me because I was like, but I want to rap with you, but I couldn't rap it. But now I've learned the rap, and oh my goodness, this song literally takes my breath away. Love it. So now we are going into number 6 of the top 10 facts about atheists. And I just want to expand on what I was speaking about briefly earlier. Many times people pray prayers of desperation and then they refuse to see the miracle. Be very careful that when you pray that you are watching out for God to do the miracle, because when he does, are you grateful? And that's why many times people are like, God is not real, I don't hear from God. It's because, are you actually grateful when he does things for you? When you read the word, when the word is preached, do you apply the word? Or are you just one of those people that are like, it happened, it was nature, it was the universe or whatever, but you're forgetting in that moment of desperation you prayed. So number 6, where do atheists find the meaning of life? Like a majority of Americans, most atheists mentioned family. A source of meaning is derived from your family, but atheists were far more likely than Christians to describe hobbies as meaningful or satisfying. Atheists were also more likely than the American overall to describe finances and money as creative pursuits, travel, leisure, activities like that as meaningful. And this is not surprising for me if you look at it. First of all, where else do they find value? And that is why many atheists that don't have family commit suicide. And even if they do have family, if their family is messed up, they commit suicide, because what's their overall value? They put their overall value in family. And if the family is messed up, then why do I have a reason to live anymore? Secondly, obviously, they would describe their hobbies as meaningful and satisfying because they are trying to find that deeper connection. They are trying to find meaningful value in their lives that they haven't found anywhere else. And so they look at it in hobbies and stuff, and they're like, oh, tennis is my passion. It's my, because they don't know where else to place their passion. God set these things inside of us, and it's not being fulfilled if you don't believe in him. So you go to hobbies. And it also says that they overall describe their finances and money and creative pursuits and travel and leisure activities. All of that is meaningful. Now, if you're living for all of these things, they can all let you down because money can disappear. Your creativity can go. If you're a painter and you go blind and you lose your arms, finished. Traveling, now we can't travel. We're in lockdown. So what? What happens now? Leisure activities. All of this stuff can be taken away. Once it's taken away, what then becomes the meaning of your life? Nothing. That is why many atheists fall into depression. Many atheists commit suicide, because what happens when all of these things you've placed your treasure in go? Then you're left by yourself. In many cases, being an atheist isn't just about personally rejecting religious labels and beliefs. Most atheists also express negative views when asked about the role of religion in society. And many of them would do that, because if I look at the stories of atheists, and I'm going through hectic stories of atheists, obviously I'm going to be sharing them as we go along the show, but they look at what happened in my life. What did God do? Nothing. Okay, cool. I don't believe in him anymore. And you don't see what God is doing in the background. Many times we pray for 2 days and we give up, and then we want to go and try something else or do it ourselves, but God is always working. And many people have misdirected anger at God because of what has happened in their lives. Now, let's say a Christian in their lives did something. Now they're like, is that Christianity? I don't want to be Christian. So it's not basically about the belief system. It's about the experience. And based on the experience, they turn away from God. Number 8, atheists may not believe in religious teachings, but they are quite informed about religion. Yes, they are. Oh my gosh, there are atheists that have read the Bible more times than probably most Christians have. They study the Bible, and that for me is like, if they're doing that, why as Christians are we not studying the Bible? But obviously, they don't get revelation from it because they study the Bible from the perspective of, I want to see where the cracks in the whatever are. I want to see what's wrong with the Bible. But atheists are well studied on the Bible, believe it or not. Number 9, most Americans say it is not necessary to believe in God or to be moral, while 42% say belief in God is necessary and has good values. So 56% of Americans, that's why in America there's all of these school shootings, there's all of these mass murders and crimes and whatever, because they don't believe in moral standing. And if you don't believe in a universal moral standing, which for me is the Bible, then what I do is my business, and if it infringes on your rights, then for me it was morally correct. So why are you complaining? And that's how people see things. Number 10, Americans feel less warmly towards atheists than they do towards members of the major religious groups. And that for me makes sense, because if you look at someone who doesn't believe in God, there's not very much warmth or depth to them emotionally. They have cut off that part of themselves that wants to yearn for a God. And I do believe that atheists lay in bed and they think about, what if I believed? What if there is really a God? I do believe that they think that, because there's an emptiness that you feel when you don't have God. And I know this from personal experience, because there was an emptiness I felt when I didn't know God. There was this deep yearning for something more, for something bigger, but I did not know what it was. So for me, it was always one of those things where I'd push it aside and be like, hey, I don't need God, I don't need church to believe and stuff. And that is why many times people who are atheists commit suicide. And this is the connection between atheists and suicide. I mean, if you look at it, many of the people that are atheists are usually young males, and they are educated, and now they've learned through this system of education that, you know what, this God that you thought was real is nothing but a figment of your imagination. Now, what is the purpose of living? Because you're like, okay, I was a mistake. I came from dirt and I will return to dirt. So what is the actual point of my life? Why should I continue living? And there's a lot of depression that plays in atheism. A lot of atheists are depressed. That's why you see a lot of them making the most depressing music videos, singing the most depressing songs on the face of the planet. I mean, if you look at songs like Eminem and Rihanna made a song, and basically in the song she was speaking about the fact that it's called Monster, by the way. Don't listen to it. Very depressing, very sad song. She's speaking about the fact that she's friends with the monster that's under her bed and gets along with the voices inside of her head. And she says, if you trying to save me, stop holding your breath, and you think I'm crazy and you think I'm crazy, that's not fair. And for me, I'm like, that is crazy. Because if there are voices in your head and stuff, that's legions, that's demonic. And this is where the demonic oppression falls into play, because you don't believe in a God, so there's no saving you from such forces. There's no saving you from the voices of the devil inside your head, and you start going into a mental craze where you're paranoid about everything, and everything is not right, and why did this person do this, and look at that, and you angry and you hurt and you unable to let go of a lot of things, because you don't know how, you don't know why this happened to you, you don't know why that person did that, and now you've got this unforgiveness, you've got this anger, I'm a mistake, these voices in my head telling me that I'm nothing and all of this stuff. And how do you deal with that? In reality, how do you deal with all of that if there is no God, if you have no leading spiritually? How do you deal with all of that? You can't. And that's why many atheists fall into depression. They fall into a place where they want to kill other people, where they want to kill themselves, where they want to hurt other people, because hurting people hurt people. And that is it. Hurting people hurt people. And if you are unable to get out of that hurt, then what do? You stay in depression, and then you're sad, and that's the end of it. That's where the end of that whole thing goes. You end up being depressed, you end up committing suicide, you end up living a life that is not fulfilled because you don't believe in God. And we are going to go deeper into this topic. You do not want to miss a second of it. We are going to be speaking straight after this, speaking about how to get out of that depression.
I love Active FM. Christ music is hot music. Our music at Active FM is lit.
Fire, fire.
Going up like a mansion. I ain't got no reason.
Tell the people.
Everybody on the dance floor now. Christ is the one we lift our hands for now.
You're tuned in to Active FM.
Now, we have been speaking atheists and depression, and it has been very sad for me. It's always very sad when somebody doesn't believe in God, because then you start seeing how they're living life, and it's not from a perspective of you didn't believe in God, now look at how you're living, or from a judgmental perspective. It's from a perspective of compassion, where you look at this person and you're like, you could be living such a richer, fuller life if only you knew, if only you could let me tell you, because I want to, if only you could experience God himself. Jesus shed his blood on the cross. That's so we could be free from redemption, from rejection rather. That's so we could be free from depression. That's so we could be free from all the hurts and all of the pains. He shed his blood. That's so we could be redeemed, redemption. That's so we could find a restoration. He died of a broken heart on the cross. That's so all of our wounds can be healed. And now when you look at it, when you're forgiving someone, when you're letting go of all those hurts and all those anger and all that pain that is inside of you, you're not saying they're getting away with it, because God is a God of justice. Let him set things straight. He's not saying forgive them, that's so they can live their lives and be whatever and get away with it. They're not getting away with it. God is the God of justice. He will level the playing field. He is a God of justice. Trust him. Believe that he will. Also, once you've forgiven, you need to deal with the wounds emotionally that are there. And sometimes when people betray you, there are curses that are there. You need to apply the blood of faithfulness over those curses. You need to apply the blood of restoration over those wounds, the blood of identity, to remove and completely take away all of those wounds that are inside of you. There is no better way to find freedom than to forgive and to apply the blood of Jesus. That's why he went through the cross. He could have just taken a lot of sleeping tablets and died for us that way, but he went through the most brutal death to shed his blood for a reason. That's so we could find full redemption in Christ. He loves us. He loves us so much, and he wants to give each and every one of us that. He's not looking at atheists going, oh, they can stay with whatever they believe. No, he loves us. And with all of this said, if you're looking for us and you don't know where to find us, simply find us on Instagram at ActiveFM777, Facebook /ActiveFM777, Twitter, yes, we're on Twitter, at ActiveFM, on our website www.activefm.co.za. We have iTunes Podcasts, Active FM, or just search the show you're looking for. Google Podcasts, just search Active FM. YouTube, Active FM. Spotify, search for the shows under the podcast. TikTok at Active FM 777. And we have plenty of other platforms. Iono FM, you can find us, Active FM. Listen, just get searching, get going through all of these platforms. And if you're looking for me personally, simply find me at Rhymes and Poetry 777. The page is called Philosophically Poetic, but because the show started off as Rhymes and Poetry, I'm not going to lose all of you guys that are on that page and start a new page. So it is called Philosophically Poetic. Make sure you go and follow. Make sure you do the most, comment, like, share, and share some more. Make sure that everyone in your world is listening to Active FM, because we need it, especially in this time when no one is telling you about hope. You need Active FM. And there are many shows. There are shows that will make you laugh. There are shows about movies. There's this show. There are shows about space, about, listen, everything that has a topic, there's a show about it on Active FM. There are music shows. Christ music is hot music. Radio has never been better. Listen, it won't get better than Active FM. Make sure that you are sharing out the shows, and make sure that you are liking, commenting, and telling people about it. But this is Noelzii for another week, leaving you again. Yes, I have to go. This has been Noelzii for Rhymes and Poetry. Peace out, and God bless you. Bye.
Back to the place I go go back to the place you told me you loved me. I was clear to your world, yeah. I thought we were something. You gave me shelter. You gave me room for my imagination. You expect me to believe it was all an illusion. Still you're confusing. Isn't it harmless? Isn't it harmless? Whether I love you the way that I should. Isn't it harmless? 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 I don't know why I'm stuck on the ceiling. This way, it's making me feel so crazy. Oh, lady, and I don't know why, but I just keep on thinking about you. And I can't unsee the way I saw you. It's kinda like a picture my mind is tattooed. I feel like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Living without you. Living without you. Isn't it harmless? 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 I couldn't